Looking back at myself as a reader throughout this semester and experiencing literature. The first reader response that we did in this class was a group assignment through a Google Doc for the story The Things They Carried by Tim O'Brien. I had read the whole book of this in high school in the past, so reading the short story was like doing a second reading, and that enabled me to pick up on little details that I hadn't noticed before, or to remember small details since I hadn't read the story in so long. Doing the response as a group also allowed me to see others' opinions and to learn new perspectives of events in the story that I may not have had interpreted the same way. Noticing new details allowed me to have a deeper understanding of the book, as well as to ask new questions I had not thought of before. For example, after realizing that the story so greatly focuses on the mental effects of soldiers after returning from war, I began to question the author's own experience in the war, his mental state afterwards, and if he directly created any of his characters based on himself. I think that during this class I have definitely improved my reading skills. Now in a first reading of a story, I have an easier time of noticing smaller details that I may not have had noticed before this first time through. I am able to notice the major themes of stories and even use them to connect to other stories that have similar themes and messages. I can also notice symbols and realize their significance more easily than I was able to before. One story in particular, for example, was the story The Handsomest Drowned Man in the World by Gabriel Garcia Marquez. I easily picked up on the themes of being thankful for what you have no matter what, and that perspective is everything. I picked up on all of the imagery Marquez used, and realized that the drowned man was a symbol of a godlike figure, and he brought an element of religion into the story. A main reading strategy I used was reading a story for the second time, again because it allows the reader to pick up on details that they may not have picked up on before. Also, it helps when the book is in paper copy as opposed to digital, because it is very helpful to mark up important sections or lines and write ideas in the margins to help the story make more sense when going back for a second reading, and also to keep track of ideas when discussing the story in the future, or for us when doing reader responses or during discussions. Throughout this class, we used a lot of digital tools in order to enhance our learning. I personally enjoyed using Google Docs with classmates on the reader response document for The Things They Carried, because using a computer and typing makes keeping thoughts organized so much easier, and also allows you to immediately see other students' opinions and their own work. The critical analysis and reader response documents online that were used to analyze a story when we were discussion leaders again helped to organize thoughts, and during the discussion quickly be able to find the points that you wanted to bring up. When reading the war poetry, the digital annotations were much easier than keeping track of our notes on the physical piece of paper, because again typing is much easier than writing by hand. The reading blog was one of my favorite parts of this class because it really hit my interest in reading home, because writing our opinions on a book we actually wanted to read online for anyone else to see and follow makes reading more meaningful than just a leisure activity. Connections can be made from any story to real life as well as from one story to another. A specific example from this semester was The Things They Carried, because even the short story shows the profound effect that war can have on a soldier mentally, even after they return home, and that message can connect to people who personally know a soldier in real life or who serve themselves. The story Cathedral by Raymond Carver connects to disabled people in real life, as it exposes the struggles that people have to deal with when others are unable to understand their situation. A White Heron by Sarah Orne Jewett is a classic coming-of-age story that any adolescent can learn a lesson from as they grow up and become an adult themselves. Finally, the story Two Kinds by Amy Tan is a story about a girl whose mother tries to shape her a certain way, which is similar to any parent who tries to make their kid become a certain kind of person, especially applicable to us as we are just beginning the journey of the rest of our lives, and now is the time we have to figure out what we want to do, which may or may not be the same as the idea that our parents have for us. I really hated reading before this class because the books we were forced to read during school ruined how much I loved reading when I was younger. It is so difficult to find time now to read with how many other responsibilities we have, but I learned that because of this class, it is a great escape from the stresses of real life. At first, I also struggled with picking up on small details in stories as well as understanding the whole meaning of stories, but that skill improved with my advancing as a critical reader. Poetry was scary to me because I associated it with long, hard words that are confusing and difficult to understand, so I was worried about the poems, but after reading them and exploring our interpretations, I am now interested in poetry. A memorable experience in this class for me was keeping track of how much screen time we have every day. Personally, I am looking at screens a lot more than I would like to be because I am very worried about the path society is headed on with how addicted to technology we are becoming throughout the generations. I also enjoyed during the free read because reading a book for fun allowed me to find the joy in reading again, and now I like to read and plan to continue to do so. Going along with that, the reading blog was very fun to me because I enjoyed posting my thoughts to an actual audience online of people I did not know. I may even continue the blog now that I want to continue reading even though the class has ended. My aha moment was when I realized how much time I spent looking at screens because that amount really shocked me, and now I want to do whatever I can to lessen that value. Also, reading the story The Cask of Amontillado by Edgar Allan Poe was a moment that I realized that I was becoming a better critical reader because I was able to understand everything in that story so quickly, which, even though I read it before, it had been a very long time, and I was proud of myself for being able to figure it out completely. That was a moment that I had realized I liked reading because it is almost like a puzzle that you need to figure out so that you can understand the meaning of a story and what message the author was trying to portray.